It's BULOVA, Bulova Watch Time. America runs on Bulova time.
If you look back on 150 years of Bulova, they have a great history utilizing new technologies, new designs, and doing it better and bigger. And they've done it brilliantly.
May 1927, Lindbergh and the spirit of St. Louis.
There's no other watch brand that can claim in the last 100 years I can think of to be so intrinsic to aviation, to military, and to space travel, and yet oriented so strongly toward the average user. It's accessible, but it's also mythic.
Bulova presents the Frank Sinatra Show.
Bulova has been able to survive and thrive over the last 150 years because they embraced every era so seriously, with such love, always staying in tune with design, in tune with culture.
Bulova has such a rich history with women. It's something Bulova does time and again. They come out and they say, this is a socially important cause. This is a culturally important cause.
Welcome to the world-famous Apollo Theater.
Bulova is such a central piece of New York history. They've been true to the New York vision, which is being in your face and kind of changing the game.
This is the American dream. You come here as an immigrant, you build a company that 150 years later, multiple generations still know about it. Bulova is America.
Let me show you the museum over here now. This is a great room here. This is one of my favorite rooms.
Your favorite room?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't wait.
Well, this is, to put it in music parlance, these are the greatest hits, right? And so when you think about greatest hits, you have to look back sometimes to look forward. And so we get a lot of inspiration in this room. Joseph Bulova, our founder. The company's been uninterrupted for 150 years, and we really stand on the shoulders of Joseph.
The more I learn about Bulova and the history, it's not just having a great product and a great brand. It's also tapping into the souls of the zeitgeist and the consciousness of the world, and continuing to do that, continuing to innovate, and always trying to make better.
Joseph Bulova was born in 1851 in Bohemia, what is today known as the Czech Republic. As a very young man, he had apprenticed as a jeweler. He was someone who was really escaping, for his own personal reasons and coming to the country as the great, American dream. When Joseph Bulova leaves, he was only 19 years old, and he made the trip, as far as we know, by himself. It was 1870. It's an amazing voyage by itself, and then you think about he's coming here, new land, probably doesn't speak the language real well.
Joseph comes here, works for Tiffany's in their Diamond Jubilee store. 5 years later, he owns his own watch business in Manhattan. Like, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen today. It doesn't happen ever. He just was fearless.
Bulova's so linked to history and innovation. So it's like watches start becoming wristwatches. The company had to adapt. So Bulova started making wristwatches, and it started taking off.
When you think about all the things that can go wrong over 150 years, the Depression being one big one, during the 30s, they actually gained market share during that period. It's really a testament to Artie Bulova, a son of Joseph. Growing up right from the beginning, Artie was a salesman at 16, then as a VP or manager, and then the CEO of the company up until the time that he passed away. And he did incredible work in all those years.
Their success in the early years was really the fact that they were living amongst the folks that they really understood. It was all about quality. It was all about American made. And I just feel like they've always really been very connected. And also at the same time, really cutting edge.
I consider myself more of a horological archaeologist than a collector. As I built my Bulova collection, it topped out at over 5,000 pieces. So it got crazy. Yeah, it got crazy. Things got off the rails. I wanted to find kind of the history of the brand, and what I found was there wasn't a lot there. A lot of it was lost. Joseph, he came here, and it was a lot about hard work, but he had, he was born with a natural skill. His engineering mind was unbelievable. This watch from the 1930s, the whole back is loosely hinged. That's the watch as it's supposed to function. Now, if you look inside, there's a pin in there. That pin in there is actually on a bit of a screw. So whenever this closes on your wrist, you can hear it click. And that click, it's actually on a spring, and it, 0.5 millimeter at a time, winds your mainspring. It's really next level stuff. That's what put Bulova in a whole different set.
Joseph Bulova, it's an American dream, and that's what Bulova represents to me, a journey to achieve independence. Name a more relatable story, right? Name a story that's gonna encourage you to be better every day. The Bulova story, I think, at its core is the most important story, not just as a brand, but as a message. Who doesn't strive toward that?
My connection with Joseph Bulova is striving for excellence, right? Against all odds, but just sheer passion. It's not only are you gonna tell me I can't do it, and I'm gonna show you that it's possible, but I'm gonna be the best at it. I'm in the precision business. I'm in the timing business. Music is about pauses. Music is about editing. It's about knowing when to stop. And I took that into consideration when in designing the watch. The elements that I put into the watch were deeply personal. Because every watch is a part of your life on a daily basis, minute-to-minute basis. It has everything to do with beauty, quality, rhythm. But then there's the precision part that just fascinates me. It's beyond the American dream. Bulova ticks every box, pun intended. Tick, tick, tick. Bulova ticks every box.
When I think of Bulova, I think about it being an American brand originally, but I just think about it being New York. To me, it's synonymous with New York City.
Bulova is such a central piece of New York history. They've been true to the New York vision, which is being in your face and kind of changing the game.
New York is one of the most multicultural destinations in the entire world. Bulova has embraced that at every step along the way. They've paid genuine attention to diversity, to equality, to the New York grit, the New York state of mind. New York is the idea of a melting pot. All of this factors into the Bulova brand.
I don't think any other brand can capture the dynamism of a city that never sleeps. It comes through in their designs, it comes through in their spirit. It's the company saying, we love New York and we'll always be a part of New York City.
In 1920, Bulova moves from Maiden Lane to Fifth Avenue and builds an observatory on top of the building to show to the world how accuracy was being handled by the Bulova Watch Company, and also made a statement. You're on Fifth Avenue now. You're not in Maiden Lane. You're on the big street.
Throughout the years, wherever there was some major hub, Bulova was there. The 1939 World's Fair, they wanted to have the exposure. Bulova clocks were prominently displayed over the entrances.
Ebbets Field, where the Dodgers played, we had clock there. In fact, Bulova was the official sponsor of the Brooklyn Dodgers at that time. As Bulova continued to prosper and grow, they expanded in 1953 to a facility in Elmhurst, Queens, which is, I think, where everyone sees still today our Bulova sign on their way to LaGuardia Airport. In 2015, it was time for us to come back to Manhattan. And what better place to come back to than the Empire State Building, the most iconic building in New York City for the most iconic New York brand.
My great-grandfather was the last living person to have worked on the Empire State Building. He literally walked those beams. So when I went up to Bulova headquarters, I was not only enamored, obviously, by what they had collected, But I was shaking because of, right, the kind of weight of where we were. It was just a beautiful moment, right? Looking out the window, seeing this great American city as a guest of this great American brand. Come on, I mean, that's pinnacle, right? That's full circle.
We were making watches here, certainly in the United States, but Joseph Bulova, thinking globally, had a very large facility in Switzerland as early as 1912. I mean, we were truly a global brand and sourcing globally way before many other brands even had ever thought of it.
Switzerland had this cachet for making great movements and precision. So I think he was seeking out something that was very upscale, very relevant, and best in class.
Bulova flourished for most of the 20th century up until the beginning of the 70s when the whole industry was hit with the quartz crisis. In 1979, Lowe's Corporation acquires Bulova. The acquisition from Lowe's really helped it, to survive and continue on, and then later flourish. In 2008, Citizen Watch Holdings of Japan, our current parent company, acquires Bulova from Lowe's Corporation.
Speaking quite honestly, the technology and the engineering in Japan far exceeds any other country in the world. So the combination of having the two, true New York brand, born with the roots here, and the combination of best-in-class engineering with the Japanese movements, no one's got it, only Bulova.
ブローバは150年という長い歴史を有しているブランドです。アメリカの市民に長く愛され親しまれていると。現状のところをさらに良くしようというそういう強い信念を、今までこの150年間常に持ってさまざまな取り組みをしてきたこと、これは事業だけではなくて、社会貢献こういったところも含めてですね、やはりブローバー自身が、よりよく世の中をしていくという、このジョセフ・ブローバーの強い信念これを引き継いできたことが、ここまでつながってきたんじゃないかと思います。
Even though Japan is an important part of our company today, every single Bulova watch is still designed in New York City as it's always been.
We have such a compelling and long history of amazing designs, lots of exploration in terms of technology. Being able to be a part of that and to kind of continue that legacy is something that really makes me come to work each day really kind of passionate about what I'm doing. Curve was definitely a difficult beast to tackle. It's the world's first curved chronograph. These are some of the earliest concept sketches that we had. The first thing that you'll notice is the side view here, we were really looking at the curvature of the actual case itself. Our thought was to make sure that it would be very seamless throughout, so this would ultimately be very comfortable and ergonomic for the wearer. So from those sketches, these are some of the technical drawings for the final design. And this is, of course, where the engineering side of the business comes in.
Once you start to curve a movement, the technical hurdle that you have to overcome, of course, is that various components are no longer in the same plane. So you get a much more challenging engineering problem.
カーブについてはその美しいフォルムが最大の特徴になっています。ただし中の部品は直線的なものが多いので、それをカーブの美しいフォルムの中にきれいに収めることに大変苦労しました。
These are distinct looking timepieces because what's beating at their heart is distinct to them. Behind those pieces are actual proprietary in-house developments that Bulova invented.
The Curve is the first curved watch with a curved high-precision quartz movement inside. That's a big wow!
ブローバはその昔から非常にチャレンジングな試みをしてきた会社でした。ブローバは非常に先進的な試みをしてきていて、チューニングフォークであったり、あるいは現在カーブ、こういったようなムーブメントをユーザーに提供して、より新しい価値を追求し続けている。それがブローバーが150年続いている秘訣なのではないかなというふうに感じています。
This is a balance wheel. You'll find one in every watch in the world. This is a tuning fork. It runs on an electronic circuit and keeps time by vibrations. The Accutron timepiece uses this tuning fork instead of the balance wheel.
At the time that Accutron came out in 1960, it was really the first quantum leap in wristwatch technology, and really since the very first watches were developed in the 16th century. An oscillator is the fundamental prerequisite for precision timekeeper. A pendulum is an oscillator used in clocks, but pendulum is a lousy oscillator to try to put into a watch. So, for centuries, every single portable timekeeper has had a balanced wheel with a balanced spring, and the higher the frequency gets, usually the better precision gets. A tuning fork is an oscillator, just like a pendulum, just like a balance. And what you had with a tuning fork Accutron was a very, very high frequency oscillator. In a single stroke, you had a watch that was an order of magnitude more precise and more accurate than any watch that had ever existed before.
Accutron, it's so precise, issued to X-15 pilots by the United States government.
The Accutron astronaut was a pilot's watch. It was actually worn by astronauts. It was worn by test pilots. It was worn by people at the cutting edge of aviation. And the Accutron astronaut was chosen for one aircraft in particular that kind of stands out in my memory as representative of just how fast, quite literally how fast, the evolution of aviation technology was moving in the 1950s and 1960s. The A-12 and its immediate descendant, the SR-71 Blackbird.
A global reconnaissance system that will sustain altitudes above 80,000 feet at speeds beyond 2,000 miles per hour is operationally ready.
The astronaut was chosen as the SR-71 pilots because of its ability to resist very, very high temperatures that would occur at full speed. The re-release of the Accutron astronaut, even if you're not a pilot, it's another way of saying that you're a sort of cool by association, right? It has a 24-hour bezel designed to allow a pilot to see the time that the watch was set to, but also GMT time, Greenwich Mean Time. That means a two-time zone watch. It was also a very cool way of saying, I'm playing on team technology, progress is good, the future is good, and I've got a watch on that proves that, I'm part of the larger project of using science for the betterment of mankind. One of the most charming characteristics, I think, of the Accutron is the F-sharp hum that the tuning fork emits. You have this wonderful... This was the age where being on the cutting edge of technological progress was something that everybody was interested in.
Becoming an Accutron service center was a major milestone in our organization's history. The Accutron at that time was the leader in watchmaking. I mean, it was state-of-the-art. And so to represent that meant that you were also now a leader. The Accutron products that we repaired and then eventually sold were used in industry for time study. They were used in film, for filmmaking. They were used in sport, car racing, rally timing. I mean, everything.
To be able to see that technology and how it worked, that's what really brought me to the Accutron. It works flawlessly and it's just excellent. This one over here is very, very special. These were given out by John F. Kennedy, Eisenhower, and Johnson. These were with the presidential seal, a gift to heads of states. This one is in mint condition. It uses the 214 standard movement, and it just makes an absolutely beautiful clock. And these are the first prototypes, and very few of these have been seen. There were only 30 of them made, and this is number one. Normal Accutron, the plastic coil that holds electronics is green, but on these, they're blue. And why they changed from blue to green, I don't know why, but they're just really incredible pieces.
Accutron was revolutionary, and we kind of put a little bit on the shelf for a long time, and we had this gem. I opened up this box one day looking through all of the old Accutron watches that we made, and it was spectacular. So it was important for us to use Accutron as the pinnacle above the Bulova brand. For someone that appreciates something a little bit different, but more importantly, having a unique brand new technology that's not available by any other watch company in the world. It actually took us 12 years to design, engineer, and actually bring it to the marketplace, that watch, 12 years. And they failed many times. And to get it right was something that not everybody else would do.
The new Accutron is a really, really interesting animal. It is fundamentally the same as every other quartz watch in terms of basic timekeeping technology. Where it differs is there's no battery. What you have instead are these very, very large, almost weather vane-like electrostatic turbines, which are visible from the front. Basically, the way that they work is by taking advantage of the movement of charged particles to generate electrical energy to power the quartz timing package and to power the movement of the hands.
These movements are very, very difficult to make, so the amount of attention to detail, it's unbelievable.
時計を組み立てるにあたっては、全て難しいところなんですけれども、もう一つ一つの工程で気をつけながら神経集中して組み立てなければいけないので、
変なところですけども、発電ローターという部品が帯電して静電気を帯びさせるんですけど、それを引き寄せないように検査してなるべく早く組み立てるだけなら3年ぐらいで、一人前になります。
お担当は貼り付けや銅入れ、ケージ打ち、外観作業といった外装全般を主に担当しています。針をつけれることを一番誇りに持っています。やっぱ苦労して時計作ってるので、つけている方見るとすごく嬉しい気持ちになりますし、モチベーションすごく上がりますね。
There is meaning to wearing a watch. This watch tells the story of a search for a new way to power the telling of time. And I can't look down at it and not see that history or not see the story that it represents. Bulova hasn't been afraid to defy trends in the watch industry, just as they have shown us they are capable of doing with their history of advertising.
It's BULOVA, Bulova Watch Time. America runs on Bulova time.
Artie Bulova, the son of Joseph Bulova, turned this independent watch brand into a globally recognized brand by substantial marketing campaigns that changed the world of advertising.
In 1926, Bulova was the first to advertise nationally on radio.
10 p.m. BULOVA, Bulova Watch Time. For supreme accuracy, expert design, and outstanding value, choose a Bulova, masterpiece of fine watchmaking. WEAF, New York.
By utilizing radio advertisements to share the time, they were directly reinforcing their message of accuracy, of precision. Bulova Watch Time. This is the time.
John Ballard, president of the company, was an innovator in marketing, and one thing he really tried to do was have repetition in advertising. BULOVA, Bulova Watch Time. In 1953, the number of times that it had been broadcast exceeded 5 billion.
BULOVA, America runs on Bulova time.
July 1st, 1941, Bulova ran the first television commercial ever.
Not just watch brands, we're talking any brand.
It aired during a Brooklyn Dodgers game opposite the Philadelphia Phillies, and it opened the floodgates to television advertising.
There was a new record set today, and the winner, Johnny Weissmuller for the 100 meters.
We are so familiar with celebrity endorsements today. Bulova had these remarkable relationships in the 20s, 30s. Johnny Weissmuller, who was an Olympian and the actor who portrayed Tarzan, was a Bulova brand ambassador.
This is one of one. This is the only fully complete Johnny Weissmuller waterproof. This has the original crown, the original bracelet, the original crystal, everything. It actually has a rubber stopper that the crown goes through to kind of waterproof the whole thing. And it worked, and it still works.
Bulova continued with celebrity endorsements in the 1950s. Then, in the 1980s, doubling down on celebrity attraction, Bulova released this campaign, One Great Face Deserves Another, which was an accumulation of some of the hottest, most talented individuals of that time. Roger Daltrey, even Muhammad Ali is a concluding voice.
My face is so pretty, I deserve two. Bulova.
Bulova has just, it's got an attitude, it's a little loud, it's a little proud, but it does it in such an elegant way. And that feeling that it gives you, I strongly believe is sort of the essence of Joseph Bulova and who he was. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you live, what walk of life you come from, everyone has that moment inside of themselves, that sense of accomplishment, that sense of feeling larger than life, or feeling a little bit bolder, a little bit braver. And the watch gives that to you. It meets you in that moment. And that's the magic, I think, of Bulova. We enter into relationships that have substance. They're genuine, they're organic. I think one of the greatest recent examples of that is our relationship with Mark Anthony.
We were conversing with Mark for over 6 years before we actually came to an agreement. That's because Mark was equally invested in making sure that this was the right relationship for him and his fans as well. Fast forward several years now, he's emotionally attached to the brand. I mean, Mark is wearing a Bulova watch every day. The connection that we have with some of these artists is such an integral part of the Bulova story. And that's really the power of music. And you layer that on top of our history that we have over the decades. It's almost endless, the connection that Bulova has had with sound and music.
I've climbed the Eiffel Tower, walked in a London shower, but I get lost.
Watches were functional for Frank. He depended on time. His expression was, if you're not early, you're late. So he wore a watch, and he relied on a watch.
And now Bulova presents the Frank Sinatra Show.
He liked Bulova watches. They were always a kindred company to him.
How do you do? Well, look who's here.
What makes Dad and Bulova work together and why they are connected is because it was consistent in good taste. He picked beautiful shoes and beautiful cars and beautiful simplified watches. And if something felt good, he would stay with it. And he did stay with Bulova, that's for sure. Our products that are branded by Frank have to be authentic to him and his taste. If it's not an organic connection to Frank, we're doing it wrong. I think there's a simplicity to what Bulova does, at least in so far as I have witnessed with the Rat Pack. It's elegant, and it reminds me of Black Tie, and when they're in the spotlights and being silly and funny together. As traditional as Bulova is to watches, I think that they have come up in time to this century. It's very simple to say congratulations to Bulova for 150 years of magnificent work, consistent and stylish work. It's very exciting. Very exciting.
Bulova had many firsts, one of which was the clock radio.
B-U-L-O-V-A, Bulova Watch Time.
Bulova invented the clock radio back in 1928. Back then, clock radios were very, very large, about 5 feet tall, where the clock would be on the top and the radio would be on the bottom. 1950s, Bulova made clock radios, transistor radios in all kinds of different colors, phonographs, lots of different items.
Then you go to the Beatles' first world tour in the United States, and there's a Bulova clock.
Music is about emotions, and I think that a brand that understands how to connect
emotionally with their consumer is key. That's why the partnership between Bulova and Latin Grammy has been a successful relationship between Bulova and the Latin community. As the Latin Academy, our job is to support the trendsetters and recognize when they achieve that level of excellence. Bulova has been a phenomenal partnership in supporting our mission and has always been there to give our artists more recognition for their success. Our best new artists, when they open their watch and they get so happy about it, is because Bulova gets it. They have created that bond, that common objective of celebrating excellence in music. Bulova and the Latin Grammy es una combinación perfecta.
Our relationship, and I call it a relationship because you guys feel like my friends, you feel like my family. Whenever you're doing something together, it feels just organic and spiritual and real. And especially going back to a time in my life where having a watch called Bulova made me feel like it was representative of the lifestyle of me and the people around me. You know, you guys are a part of that story.
I've had an incredible career. My old band, Chic, we do a song called Dancing Santy, Owzy, Owzy, Owza. Platinum right out the gate. I then write We Are Family for Sister Sledge. Then do so many records you cannot believe it. David Bowie, Paul Simon, Duran Duran, Bob Dylan. I mean, it's ridiculous. When I was a kid, the first watch that I really remember was getting a Bulova watch. It made me feel very adult-like. It was important. It was like a sort of rite of passage. You feel a certain sense of brand loyalty, especially when you do something so early. Now we have a very sort of family kind of relationship. We are, that was totally accidental. We are family. I mean, we're friends. Bulova has been such great supporters of We Are Family Foundation right from the moment we met. The We Are Family Foundation's current mission is to fund and help as many young people of color or women who are changing the world.
When we first chatted with Nile Rodgers about collaborating, we of course always have to chat about a watch. It's very much inspired by his famous guitar, the Hitmaker, in which he's made an endless amount of hits over the years. And we were happy to be able to give a percentage of every watch that we sell back to the We Are Family Foundation.
It's really cool to have a connection with a watch that you can trace back to big moments. My connection with Bulova, it's the kind of thing that I believe in, and I will be here forever.
I think the secret to Bulova's staying power is high-quality products that are affordable, but also cutting-edge, well-designed, and cool. And that aesthetic is as important today as it ever was. The more I think about Bulova's role in aviation and space travel, the more I'm just kind of blown away by it. It's accessible, but it's also mythic.
May 1927, Lindbergh and the Spirit of St. Louis.
Timekeeping, and in particular watches, are critical for pilots in the air who are making second-by-second life-or-death decisions. Bulova offered a $1,000 award for the first pilot to fly from New York to Paris. Charles Lindbergh won that prize. Bulova created a watch to commemorate that achievement, the Bulova Lone Eagle. Lindbergh himself sent them a very nice note praising the watch for his aviation experiences.
Amelia Earhart Putnam, the first woman to fly the Atlantic.
Amelia Earhart wore a Bulova, endorsed Bulova, and so Bulova responded by releasing the Lady Lindy, a woman's watch, to honor her achievements.
Richard Byrd, who's the explorer noted for his flights over the North and South Pole, he used Bulova watches. Bulova was incredibly important to commercial air transportation. They were on American Airlines and Pan Am. As important as Bulova's role was in aviation, it was more important even to space travel.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. And we have a liftoff. We have a liftoff at 24 minutes after the hour. Roger, looks good from here. Roger. The crew reports they're in fine shape, and everything looks green here in the control center.
When you conduct something like a launch, that's a sequence of events that have to occur with very minimal time differences between one event and the other, and some of them have to happen within milliseconds of one another. So the precise time is a critical function.
Boosters, go. Staging. Stage 2 thrust looks good.
Here's the first time we rendezvoused and docked with two spacecraft, which was Gemini 6 and Gemini 7. This is me wearing my Bulova, of course. I would claim that I wore an Accutron watch to more launch countdowns than anyone else on the planet. The Accutron was like a computer before its time. It was an engineering marvel. This new technology, yeah, it helped me through my career. I started with the first manned Gemini mission, assigned as a biomedical system engineer.
Looks real good and real solid. Roger, two.
In the Apollo program, I moved up as a lead engineer.
All right, Houston, we've had a problem. Stand by, 13, we're looking at it.
The Apollo 13 mission, our contribution was to help figure out the fixes. And then I got assigned to the shuttle program. In all my years with NASA, the focus was always quality. It can be a procedure that works. It can be a piece of hardware. And so I think the relationship between the space program and this Bulova is quality. They know that what they're doing is important, and they're going to do it right. They're going to give it 110%.
The Accutron-based technologies weren't just on the wrist. They were important, critical parts of both the spacecraft operation, but also the science and technology that these missions were doing. The command module from the Gemini missions had Accutron timekeeping devices in the instrument panel. The primary timing device for NASA's biosatellite was an Accutron, and the Accutron timekeeper was a key part of the Apollo lunar surface experiments package.
If you want to get one of these, you might have to travel a long ways. These are up on the Sea of Tranquility on the moon. The hour hand is years. The minute hand is months. This could be set for up to 5 years before it would trigger an output on the contacts. So it would send information back to the United States.
Everyone knows Bulova, but it has all this hidden treasure that they've hit in their history that are just so amazing that no other watch manufacturer can really claim.
The lunar landing, it was like a big deal. It felt very high tech to us. And the watch that the astronaut depended on somehow failed.
The commander of that mission happened to have as his backup watch his own personal watch, which was a Bulova.
The Bulova was the watch that was working. At the time, having a Bulova watch, I felt a sense of pride, but of course it works. My watch worked all the time.
It became the only privately owned watch to be on the moon. because all the others were government-owned that the government took back after the missions. But that particular one sold in 2015 for $1.6 million. When Bulova brought this watch back, they did a really amazing job of reviving it. It's very faithful to the original. It's very legible. It's very robust. It's very strong. It's very reliable. It's also modernized.
You get a smooth sweep of the seconds hand because it uses high-frequency quartz. The frequency of a standard quartz watch is around 32 kilohertz. But with the lunar pilot, the crystal oscillates at over 200 kilohertz. That game very few companies are playing, and it's one that produces noticeable, measurable, and real improvements in precision. I look at this particular watch and I think of the Apollo era. I think of lunar surface missions. I think of what it was like to watch a 36-story tall rocket rise up into the atmosphere and disappear. Watches are emotional objects, you know? I mean, we don't wear them because we need them. We wear them because they connect us to history. They connect us to people, sometimes people who aren't around anymore. They're time machines in a very literal sense. And they kind of connect us to our own sense of ourselves.
A watch has a life of its own. It's there with you on all the important moments. It's on your wrist. I have a Bulova watch, this tiny little piece. It's just amazing. It belonged to my aunt. She was born in 1920. And I think she got this watch in about 1943. When my aunt died, I somehow inherited the watch. And I started thinking about all the places this watch has been, all the stories this watch could tell. And it inspired me to write a whole story about how important the watch is. The times it marks, and the memories it holds, and the memories that it imparts to you. Like life, it comes full circle. So I love this watch. It's something I would never part with. One of the things I love about Bulova is the fact that it has such a rich history with women. Joseph Bulova in 1924 launched an entire collection for women, and he did it before anyone else. That was so important because at that time, women really only had pendant watches. And when they launched a collection just for women, he grew the culture and the idea of women wearing watches, not just as a piece of jewelry.
Joseph Bulova created the Rubaiyat, basically taking a very small pocket watch and putting a strap on it. How do you make that relevant today?
Beautiful.
We went to work on finding the most important details about that original watch, but we created a very different aesthetic to tell that story in today.
With Rubaiyat, Bulova did an amazing job of pulling from their history and reinterpreting it and making it incredibly contemporary. I love the fact that they've put the crown at 12 o'clock so it doesn't interfere with the symmetry of the case. I love the fact that they have the outer bezel. It's a line that can keep going for another decade, and I'm sure there's going to be a way that they're going to reinvent it yet again.
Yes, you have different lines and collections that are geared toward women and powerful women and glamorous women. Those Art Deco style timepieces, I love them to this day. But for me, as an insider, the empowerment comes from what you're doing on the inside. Like, how are you walking the walk? I think the company has done a bang-up job of hiring women and putting them in higher positions.
The fact that our company embraces women and the women's runway to grow within the company is truly amazing. I'm surrounded by great women. We all collaborate together, and that collaboration is driven by leadership.
Women have always been an important part of the Bulova business and the Bulova DNA. As early as the 1920s, the head of the biggest factory that Bulova had at that time in Switzerland was run by a woman, Lori Sandoz Peter, something that was unheard of at that time.
Bulova, he didn't look to say it's a woman or it's a man. Bulova thought about who's the right person for the job? Who can deliver the quality? Who can make sure that the pieces we're making here are true to our founding fathers' ideas? And that's all he cared about.
Women must stand up together and say no more. This system of exploitation will change, but only if we force it to change, together.
I was born in 1973, right in the thick of the equal rights movement, and a year before that, Bulova came out with that ad. 1972, equal pay, equal time.
That was so bold of Bulova to acknowledge what was going on socially. And this was against a backdrop where watch advertisements were very sexist. And it was like, watches, if they were for a woman, were positioned as gifts that a man could buy for a woman. There was no agency in that. To see their advertisement so bold and so just like out there for the time, I thought that was really groundbreaking, and it sticks with the brand today.
I have that ad framed on my wall, in my office, in my house. It's what my mother fought for. She was the bread earner in my family, and I have always worked. I've been working since 14 years old. So, you know, there are days when I get really frustrated and I look at that ad and I'm like, I gotta keep fighting. I gotta keep doing this. This is why I'm doing what I do.
Bulova came out and they supported a cause that they thought was important. It's something Bulova does time and again. If you look at their history, if you look at what the brand is, what Bulova's accomplished across so many socio-political avenues in life is just so inspiring.
As World War II is breaking out, Bulova played a very important role to aid the war effort. Maybe most importantly, Bulova was one of the only companies to produce the A11 timepiece.
The A11 is a hugely important watch, and people say all the time that it's the watch that won the war. They were robust, you know, they could take a beating in a way that was meaningful for service members. So it had certain elements that were really very valuable, and chief among those, I think, was the hacking mechanism.
A hacking mechanism on a watch is one that stops the movement so that it can be synchronized with a trusted time source or with other watches.
A team's ability to coordinate their time is hugely important, whether they're syncing to a master clock or they're syncing to one another in a group of a dozen guys. That hacking tool was critical to the success of the service members and remains, you know, to this day, a very big deal.
Artie Bulova supported the war movement, and he supported America in that way. But I think what he really supported, and the heart of it, was in the Joseph Bulova School of Watchmaking.
This building in the suburbs of New York City houses a unique institution, the Bulova School, as disabled veterans learn the highly skilled trade of watchmaking.
Artie said, you know what, we have people coming back from the war, how can I help? Bulova gave GIs free educations and then provided them with a job and a purpose. And I think that that's incredibly special. There are very few companies in the world that can say that. The Joseph Bulova School of Watchmaking is still inspired today by the Veterans Watchmaker Initiative.
I joke about, all I really need is one arm, one eye, and the heart to do this, and we can make you a watchmaker, because there's no disabilities here, none. Whatever your problems are, they are left at the door, and we're gonna fix it, and you're gonna walk out of here as a watchmaker. We take these veterans that really have tried to reintegrate into the society and found that they just can't anymore, whether it be PTS, an injury. When they come here broken and beaten, then suddenly they have pride again. It's that dignity of purpose because they're in demand. The watch companies are badgering them to come to work for them. It's incredible to see that for me.
It's kind of like bringing you back to life, in a sense. You, especially me, I know I went through a very big state of depression because I was no longer available to work. Now, I'm fortunate enough to have job opportunities outside of the program when I leave. Even now, some of us have already been offered job offers, and we haven't even graduated.
The school is basically privately funded. We write grants, we have donors that help out, and I watch every penny, so we manage to keep going. Bulova does a special watch for us It's a commemorative watch that we get a percentage of, and they continue to be a big part of this school. This is the VWI Service Center and Warehouse. In this room is part of a 27.5-ton donation of watch parts, all donated from the Bulova company. We have thousands of trays. It's all thanks to Bulova. They help perpetuate something that they believe in, and it matters to them.
I mean, this program it saved my life. It gave me everything I needed to keep going, from unemployed to now having job opportunities all over the Midwest and on the East Coast, which is honestly pretty astounding.
It's beyond comprehension for me, from my little end of the pond, watching what Bulova did as a matter of routine, just part of business because they thought it was the right thing to do. And that is what America really is, doing the right thing.
After World War II, Bulova's relationship with the military proudly continued. In 1954, the celebrated 5-star General Omar Bradley joins Bulova as head of its research and development department. Ultimately, he became chairman of the entire company. Under Bradley's leadership, Bulova developed one of the first and most exciting military dive watches. But it wouldn't be for another 64 years until we reissued it and into production. It would be called the Milships.
This is a prototype made in 1957. There's only 11 known watches. The guys that wore these watches were heroes on another level entirely, you know, and did this kinds of things that normal guys can't even dream of, you know, it's movie stuff.
American frogmen prepare for action under actual battle conditions. They are fully equipped as they go over the side. Explosive packs are thrown after them.
Navy knew the watches that were available in the 40s weren't going to be good enough. 1955, the Bureau of Ships put out a contract for a wristwatch that would serve all the purposes that these guys would need. Bulova acquired that contract. There was very little information about these watches. There was one test report. They talk about how they would put them face down in the silt and rub them around to see if they could get the bezels to come off. I mean, they really put them to the task.
The Milships was really a project that had been put down in the late 50s. After that, no one really talked about the Milships except for Adam Victor.
Before you know it, I'm sitting in the Empire State Building with the director of Bulova and a bunch of folks from the team.
We sat down and we really got to see this amazing original piece. And it really got us thinking about how we could recreate it.
I said, that's amazing. It's the first time the watch will be made, you know? It's not even really a reissue. It's like you're launching the watch for the very first time. I have seen images of this watch countless times on social media. And every time I do, I have to zoom in for a second to make sure that I'm not looking at it original. The lug width is the same, which is quite narrow for such a robust watch.
The fact that they did not compromise on the 16-millimeter lug width is amazing. They said, this is the way it needs to be done, period, no compromise.
The woven strap. There was not the same weave available today. We had to work with a European company to try to recreate a very close version.
One of the really cool features that was really important for me to get right, they found a way to make a sapphire crystal flat on the top.
If they were to do market research, I think that the data may have come back and said, I think you need a less obscure design. And they didn't pay attention to that at all. They said, this is what we owe our history, and this is what we owe the future collectors of Bulova. This, to me, is a perfect watch.
There's a romanticism that comes with these Bulova tool watch designs. Think sporty, think big, think rugged, and they're going and they're reproducing them with a lot of authenticity and honesty, giving the people what they want.
From the 40s to the 60s, if you were at an American motorsports event, it's highly likely that Bulova was involved. As far back as 1957, Bulova was the official timekeeper of NASCAR, providing the tool watches the drivers relied on.
A tool watch is a purpose-built instrument, first and foremost. Chronographs are used for auto sport timing, for aviation. A diving watch has to not leak, and it will give you some idea of how long you've been down by means of a rotating bezel. In the last decade, a lot of sort of retro heritage-inspired designs have come out across the industry. Bulova's Archive series, I think, is probably one of the better versions of this that we've seen. The designs that they're drawing from, they're in demand. These are the cool ones. The so-called parking meter is this wild chronograph. It has a bullhead design with the chronograph pushers at the top. It's entirely unique and mega cool.
The Computron is such an iconic watch for the brand. We immediately wanted to come up with a reissue. They called it the driver's watch because the dial would be at an angle where you could see it on the wheel. We then issued a version with a partner where we opened up the whole top where you could see the digital engine, if you will.
The Stars and Stripes, the Chrono C. I mean, look at this thing. It just looks like it's exploding like fireworks. I don't know what they were thinking when they made this, but they got a home run in the least expected way. There's nothing like it.
Well, we reached out to our enthusiasts a lot, and we said, what of our vintage watches would you like to see? The community really almost unanimously said, redo the Oceanographer.
I always saw watches as sort of this emblem of adventure. That feeling really hasn't left me. I think all these years later, through all the different watches I've tried and worn and bought and sold, I'm still left with that sense of wonder and adventure that you get from a watch. The history of a watch brand when it comes to choosing a dive watch, for me, I'm a bit of a romantic. The Devil Diver, Oceanographer, it's a reissue of a watch that was made back in the 1960s and 70s. The reason it took that name was because when most other watches were doing 600 feet of depth rating, they added 666. It was clever and it stuck, and it's become known as the Devil Diver. To wear a watch from a brand like Bulova, and this watch in particular, kind of a little bit of a thrill. I feel like it ties me to all of these old-time adventurers, these guys in the 60s and 70s when diving was really much more of an extreme sport. A watch was a companion and a real tool for these people. Wearing a watch like this now is important to me. It's the one thing that you can wear from the dive site or atop of a mountain to the office on Monday. You can still glance down at your wrist and it holds those memories. Now I've got that memory of my first Monterey dive on this watch that I can always look back on and remember this. To me, Bulova is one of these brands that goes back to kind of the core of the American working man's watch. It always struck me as like, this is the brand of like people that do things. That's what I love about Bulova, and I think that that's what has made them a favorite brand of so many people for so long.
Now we've just relaunched the Oceanographer with the GMT. That gives our consumer a completely different functionality, but also a new look. It gave us a chance to continue the story of Oceanographer.
What Bulova has is a proper, bona fide flyer GMT watch. If I take off in New York and I land in Geneva, I can adjust my watch to local time by pulling the crown out and adjusting the hour hand in 1 hour increments forwards or backwards to whatever the correct local time is.
Picking out this iconic, beautiful watch, and now taking it into the 21st century, fitting it now with this flyer GMT, it's kind of for the people, right? It's for the watch enthusiast.
Fashion, when you really boil it down to what it is a form of expression. There's a lot of synergy between watches and fashion, and it's incredible to see a brand live and still remain relevant throughout that course of time over a century. If you look at the Christian Dior Bulova collaboration from 1968, these chunky bakelite cuff watches, it was really chic. I would wear them today. If you know me and my work at all, you know I really love small watches. I think they did a great job with the American Girl. This is a watch that came from the 1950s, and it's very 50s. It's a little dainty bracelet, a little tiny face. To re-release it and be so true to the original design, I mean, it's really cool to see history kind of living and breathing and then really using that as a reference point to create an everlasting heritage that they can turn back on today and use to fuel the brand moving forward.
Each and every day, we have the ability to impact the future for the better. And there's no better time to do it than right now. This store is the first of its kind in North America for people from all over the world, connecting them to stories that inspire us every day.
Every morning when I wake up, I think about what's the next 10 years going to look like for Bulova and what's going to look like for the next generation. We're going to continue to get that younger generation excited about the Bulova brand going into the next 150 years. Building that story, building that community, and building that emotional connection.
Next 150 years of Bulova, I want them to keep at it, continue to draw from their history and push the boundaries of innovation, breaking expectations and doing awesome stuff that no one expects from Bulova, and I think they will.
As Bulova embarks on the next 150 plus years of its story, I think it just has to continue caring about culture. It has to continue to be the brand with a soul.
Sitting here and being asked about the 150th anniversary of Bulova, being a part of the Bulova family, what else can I say? I mean, it's like winning a Grammy. It's going, you know, it's just, I'm just so honored. I've been in the trenches with them and we've designed watches together and I see their process. Again, you could say 150-year anniversary, but this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning.